It has been so long since I've made a video that I feel like my video skills are so rusty and I don't even know how to do these anymore. Since it has been quite a while since I have filmed and put out a proper video, I know that there are a lot of new subscribers, so welcome if you are new around here and don't know who I am. My name is Madison. I am a high school fashion design teacher by day and a seamstress and YouTuber by weekend. And here on YouTube, I share tips and tricks for fashion, sewing, style, and just my overall love for fashion in general, and to share that love and passion with you all. And speaking of being a fashion design teacher by day, I am on summer break. We finished our school year and I am seriously so excited and ready for a break. This year has been full of ups and downs. It's been crazy, it's been amazing, but I am ready for a break and ready to dive back into sewing because that is what I love to do in the summertime. So I thought while I am transitioning back into creating projects, making content, filming videos, I would sit down and film a little life update video since it's been a while, and kind of answer some questions that I have gotten over the time that I have been putting out videos and do a little bit of a Q&A. So like I said, I thought I would start off this video doing a little bit of a life update because I am still alive, I am still here, I have not abandoned YouTube. Life has just been crazy. So like I said, I'm a high school fashion design teacher by day. If you want to learn more about that, I have a video on my channel talking all about how I became a fashion design teacher because it is the best job ever. But anyways, all that aside, this year has been crazy. So I'm currently now on summer break. It's like a week-ish into summer break and I am so excited about that, which meant that this past school year was my third year of teaching. So I just finished my third year of teaching. It is just seriously crazy that I've been a teacher for 3 years. Time just flies by, and with everything that has happened this past year, school and teaching was so vastly different, especially for my classes, which are so hands-on and so like interactive and project-based. It was quite a challenge trying to figure out how to teach students who are online at home, students who are in class in person, all that stuff. And even though it felt like my first year of teaching all over again and was probably the most mentally and emotionally like draining year, I feel like of my life, a lot of you probably feel that way, but just layer on being a teacher in the midst of a pandemic. And it was quite a year, but even despite all of the craziness, it really was an incredible year. I learned so much from my students and was just constantly inspired by them along the way because they are some fantastically fashionable students and just very talented. So that's kind of a teaching life update just with everything that was happening. I tried to keep up with videos and I'm honestly pretty surprised with how much I was able to actually put out content throughout the year, but the last 2 months honestly were just so difficult. And as much as sewing and making videos is so much of a creative escape for me, I also find that when I am so exhausted and drained, it drains all of my creative ideas and I just don't feel inspired to go out and create and sew things, even though that's technically my stress reliever. This year just zapped so much for me and I would just come home and take a nap or just like lay on my bed binging Netflix for like 2 hours because I had no energy to do anything else. So anyways, that's why videos and content have not been being put out, but I am so excited to really dive back into all of these projects that I have been wanting to do forever, and that is something I love to do in the summertime, is work on projects. So definitely have a lot of ideas and plans, but something that I really took away from this year is it is okay to say no. It's okay not to do the things that you have on your to-do list if you know it is not what is best for you, because I felt that if I just kept trying to push myself to put out videos and make content and do projects, that it was going to take so much more from me mentally and emotionally than it would be like pouring into my life. And so it's okay to not do things, to put things on the back burner until you're ready, until life has slowed down, and to not have such high expectations for yourself, like to give yourself grace. So that's my big takeaway of the year, and kind of part of the life update. Outside of that, there's really no other life updates in my life. My life is pretty laid back, not full of drama, not full of craziness, so it's really just about sewing now. And that brings me to the other part of this video, which is all about answering Q&A questions that I have gotten, because I haven't really filmed a proper Q&A video in a really long time, unless you go deep back into my videos on YouTube and find like my Q&As from college. Yeah, when I was doing blogging, all that stuff. There are Q&As on my channel, it's just, they're very old. So we're gonna do an updated Q&A with questions that subscribers have asked, as questions from my followers on Instagram, all that stuff. Speaking of which, before we dive into Q&A, if you are on TikTok, definitely go and follow me on TikTok. I will link my TikTok down below in the description, because that is honestly where I'm pushing out a lot of content these days. Even though I haven't been putting out YouTube videos for the past couple of months, I've still been putting out a lot of TikTok videos, and I really kind of fall in love with using that app for a platform of fashion, sewing, and education. So if you're on TikTok, definitely go give me a follow, because there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff and other videos that you don't see here on YouTube that I am pushing out there. So yeah, shameless plug. So let's dive into answering some questions, and as I go through these, if there are questions that kind of pop into your mind, feel free to drop them in the comments below and I will answer them as this video comes out if I don't answer them in this video. So let's dive into all those questions. Alright, so the first question is by a subscriber on YouTube. So the subscriber said, what made you want to start a YouTube channel, and do you think of it as a creative outlet or a business? So here's the thing, this video is coming out in June. June is kind of like the 1 year anniversary of what I label myself as kind of becoming a YouTuber, even though I really don't consider myself a YouTuber, because YouTubers like have thousands and thousands and millions of subscribers. But it's like the 1 year anniversary of me starting to make sewing videos and pushing them out, because it was last June that I really started to put out like sewing content and videos on YouTube. Even though I had been putting out videos, a couple of videos for years just about travel and Q&A having to do with my blog back in college, it's like a year of me like doing this as a creative thing. And so I guess for starting YouTube, I've had it for a number of years. I've had it since I was in college, but really starting YouTube in regards to putting out videos was really last year, in the midst of the pandemic. Last year for school, we went on spring break and we never came back. We transitioned into online learning, and the end of the year was just really weird. And my schedule was so different than it had been, and so I found myself with like these random amounts of time. So I really started getting back in to all of these sewing projects that I have been wanting to do for like years. And then I kind of decided I would really love to be able to share this part of my life and these fun projects with people, and so I started filming videos. And so it was just kind of a random thing I decided to do. I was like, hey, I've always loved watching videos on YouTube. There's so many YouTubers that I love. I kind of want to put my own spin on this and put my own videos into the world. And so it's kind of just a random fluke thing. And I really do consider it more of like a creative outlet more than a business. Honestly, I never in a million years saw myself as making YouTube videos and like being a YouTuber per se, even though I still do not consider myself a YouTuber like by any means. And so like sitting here now, it's kind of crazy that this is something that has become like a cool outlet for me, and also a really cool opportunity as well. So it still is a creative outlet, but I think with how my YouTube grew when I never expected it to grow that much, thanks to the strawberry dress. If you haven't watched that video, I'll link it down below, or tag it up above. The strawberry dress like literally changed everything last year. But anyways, it's kind of helped me, or allowed me to kind of brainstorm the possibility of doing YouTube content in the future. Creative things are something that make me so happy, and as a teacher, I love sharing my passion for sewing, fashion, and creativity with other people. And so YouTuber kind of is this larger classroom to share what I love with a larger variety of students of all ages and from all over the world. So it's definitely a creative outlet, but I am definitely brainstorming ideas and dreaming for the future of how I could turn this potentially into maybe some type of business. So next question. So the next question is from a follower on Instagram, and she said, do your students know about your social media accounts and YouTube channel? So as a teacher, I definitely have really great relationships with my students, but I always keep this strong boundary of like professional relationships with them. So even though like we're friends as teacher and student, not like buddy. So I don't think that it's necessarily a great idea for teachers to be following students on social media and vice versa. So I don't ever like publicize to my students all the aspects of my life. And I don't follow students on social media. I do have a couple of students that I know follow me, and they're students who like aren't in my class anymore. They moved away. There are some current students that follow me, but I never really see that a lot of my students are following me, so that's still kind of like a side part of my life in regards to social media. A lot of them do know about my YouTube because last school year I shared about my strawberry dress and like how that kind of blew up and how I was in like an NBC News article about it. So that was like my fun fact for them, and so then they all started like searching up my name and finding my YouTube channel. So they do know I have a YouTube. A lot of them are probably more apt to know about that and follow me on there. And also TikTok. Oh my gosh, TikTok. I will like be standing in the hallway at school, and I've had multiple students pass me and be like, hey, I saw your TikTok video on my For You page, because TikTok often like recommends videos from people who you are like friends with on TikTok, or like are in your general like location and vicinity. And so if anything, I feel like more people know about me from TikTok at school than other stuff, which is just seriously so crazy because I'm a very like private person, and so the fact that I like have TikTok and have YouTube is just kind of crazy. So they know about it. They don't necessarily follow me on there, and I also don't talk about it a lot. Who knows, in the future that might change and it might become more of a part of like our classroom. So someone else asked a similar question. They said, have any of your students found you're a blogger or YouTuber? I don't really do blogging anymore, but this kind of goes with the question I answered before. I don't really necessarily say that I do this, but I have mentioned it, and so the students who pick up on that know about it. Or, you know, students will just like Google their teachers, and so if you Google my name, you literally will find everything out about me. So alright, so this question is from a follower on Instagram, and she asked, what made you start sewing? So I don't know if I've really talked about this all that much on my channel, so backstory or like rewind back in my life. I don't know how old I was, but really in general, I grew up with a grandmother who was a very skilled seamstress, my mom's mom. My mom grew up having like a lot of homemade clothes. My grandma would make her a lot of her clothes and dresses for different holidays and events that she went to, and so I kind of grew up with the knowledge of sewing from her. And then it was something, I think because of that, but also because I always was a very creative person and I loved fashion and clothes, that I kind of became interested in it on my own. And so I remember one year getting like this little mini sewing machine for Christmas. Before that, I had been doing like a lot of hand sewing and quilting. And so I learned about sewing and got into sewing because of my grandma. My mom also knew how to sew, and so they both kind of taught me the basics. And then I'm the type of person who loves to learn on her own. So after I kind of had the basics, I was like, hey, I got it. I'm just gonna go figure this out on my own. Made a lot of mistakes along the way, but learned a lot in the process. And so it was kind of through my grandmother and my mom, and then my own like curiosity for it and doing research and just learning on my own. And then I really was big into sewing all throughout high school. Continued to love sewing in college. In college I started to shop making custom midi skirts for people, and then in college I also took 2 design classes because I had never had any like specific design and sewing classes before, and so that taught me a lot of technical stuff, and I really felt like I fell more in love with sewing because of it and knowing the technicalities of it. And then now being a teacher and teaching fashion design and teaching sewing is part of my job, but also one of my hobbies. So I think it's just always become a part of my life because it's creativity and fashion is a part of who I am, and so it kind of goes like hand in hand with sewing. So a question that I get all of the time, and that someone asked specifically for this video, is if I have ever thought about making and selling some dresses for people who request them, or if I've ever thought about selling my designs. So One, yes and no. Like I said, I used to have an Etsy shop and it was so fun making skirts for people, but because my life is so crazy, and I feel like because I already have such little time to sew as it is, I'm a little selfish when it comes to my projects. It sounds so bad, but when I make and sew something, it is so hard for me to like part with it. So a lot of the things they've already created I haven't sold. I just hold on to them, keep them, wear them. And then the same thing for like making things custom for people. I get requests and questions all the time for people asking me to make things for them. And I would love to do that someday. I just don't have it in the time frame of my life right now. Also, making clothes for people in 2 specific sizes is really a completely different thing than making clothes for yourself. And so I'm still learning the art and technical aspects of that. So one day, that is definitely something that I have in the back of my mind that I might pursue, of making custom things for people. But right now it's just creating things and sharing them with other people. So maybe one day I will take commissions. Maybe one day I'll sell some of the things that I've made and shared about in my videos. But right now it's like holding on to like a special treasured aspect of my life. So this is from a subscriber on YouTube, Laura Han, who said, I would love to hear more about your experience teaching, how you got into teaching, what it's like, etc. So if you want to know all about teaching, my experience teaching, I'm going to link my video down below. I'll also tag it above, where I basically walk you through and tell you all about how I became a high school fashion design teacher. But in short, again, if you want all the details, go to that video. I also have a number of TikTok videos talking about this because I get the question on there all the time. I went to college, majored in family and consumer science. I minored in education. I took my 2 tests to become certified as a family and consumer science teacher. My first year of teaching, I was not a fashion design teacher. My second year, I was able to step into that position. And that's kind of how I got my job. But if you want all the details, go and watch the video. But experience-wise, teaching, it's been a great experience. Both my parents are teachers. I come from, honestly, a long line of teachers. Everyone in my family is going to become a teacher. My brother and sister are in the process of becoming teachers right now. And so teaching has always been a huge part of my life. I also love fashion and design and sewing, and so getting the opportunity to teach that is literally awesome because my job every single day is so fun. And it's like if you're an English teacher and you're teaching someone to learn how to read, and you get to experience them experiencing words and the power of words and stories, and see like that life and the light in their eyes. I get to see that, but from the perspective of teaching students how to sew. And when they have that accomplishment of being able to take those skills and make something for themselves, it's literally so fun. And like, my students teach me things every single day because they are just brilliant. They know so many things about designers and brands and the industry. They're such talented artists and designers and creators, and it's just so fun to like get to know them as students. So yeah, that's kind of my experience teaching. If you have like more specific questions, drop them in the comments below and I will totally love to answer those for you. So someone on Instagram asked me about like the fonts that I use and the designs. So outside of fashion and design and all that stuff, I love doing graphic design, and so putting together like the thumbnails for my videos is seriously so much fun. So a couple of tips for those of you who are wondering like how I create those, or if you just love graphic design yourself, how you can kind of explore that. I love the website Canva. So it's like Canvas without the S, Canva.com. And Canva is I always describe it as a free graphic design software because it's just super user friendly. They have this whole library of shapes, designs, templates that you can use to create all your different logos, posters, flyers, all of this stuff. And so they have a huge library of all these different fonts and effects you can use with your fonts. And so I use that for a majority of my thumbnail videos. I design all of my thumbnails on Canva using all of the design aspects that they have. And then I recently got an iPad with a pencil, and so I love using Procreate to create my own graphics and fonts and designing my own thumbnails from a more artsy side on there. So Canva is great, and then if you like to freehand and do more artsy stuff, Procreate on an iPad is awesome. All right, I have a few not like fashion and sewing specific questions. So someone on Instagram asked, what is my favorite country and city? So that has been a huge, really hard part of 2020 and this year, 2021, as not being able to travel to all the places I was planning to travel to. Last summer, I was planning to travel to Europe, the UK, Rome, Greece, and I had to move those trips to this summer, and then they weren't able to happen this summer, so we're moving it to next summer. So missing out on all the international travel has been so hard. Trying to pick my favorite country, and my favorite country as of now, I would probably say England. I was the person who grew up being in love with England. I am the biggest BBC period drama Jane Austen fan, hands down. I will watch those type of videos and shows like 24/7, 365 because I love them. They just speak to my soul. And so I always grew up dreaming of going to England, and England, even though I've only been to London and Oxford, it was a dream. It was absolutely amazing. Actually, fun fact, earlier this year, I was missing England so much that I did a deep dive into how you can become a teacher in England, and how you can actually move to England as someone from the US and teach there, and if they have like family and consumer science type classes, which they do, and getting certified as a teacher in England is not as big of a process as I thought. And so for a good like 2 weeks, I was trying to figure out how I could move to England and be a teacher. Still something in the back of my mind. If I want to do something crazy and sporadic one day, I will probably move to England and become a teacher, because I miss it like so much. I see pictures and videos from my trips to England, really my trip, because I've only been one time, and like I get so nostalgic and like sad because I have such a connection to it. So my favorite country, definitely probably England, and I cannot wait to explore more of it one day. I'd also say Scotland is probably a favorite as well. I've only gotten to visit one time, and it was for such a short amount of time, but my family heritage traces back to Scotland, so Scotland also has a very huge part of my heart. My favorite city, I'm gonna pick something not in another country. In the US would have to be New York. I adore New York. You know, it's one of those places that like people say you like once you visit, like you fall in love with it. People move to New York to follow their dreams. Like there's something about this city for the dreamers and the designers and the creatives, and I've been to New York 2 times, and both times were absolutely amazing. I'm going back this summer and I'm so excited, and I literally will probably go back in November as well, because I want to see the fashion exhibit at the Met for like their new fashion exhibit that'll be coming out that will be tied to the Met Gala. Anyways, I just love New York. There's just something about this city. Like there's so many things to do. It's different every single day, and just from a fashion perspective, I just love it, and just people watching. So that would probably have to be like my favorite city. All right, a subscriber on YouTube asked what my favorite fashion era is. So I am a huge fashion history nerd and snob. I definitely don't know all there is to know. I'm still constantly learning, but like everything fashion history I love. I think that's what got me into fashion, is in high school being so intrigued by older past decades, and also all of these old vintage clothes that my grandmother never got rid of, and so I just like inherited, and so learning about the history of fashion, I think, is what allowed me to appreciate fashion, because in order to appreciate the present, we have to understand our past. We have to understand our history and how we got to where we are today, and the influences from our history that impact our lives. Same thing for fashion. So my favorite fashion era, I love old, ancient, historical fashion history, but I also love the 1900s. So I think if I were to choose, I would probably say like Regency England, early 1800s fashion era. I also loved like the mid 1700s as well. So early 1800s, mid 1700s, but then if we get into like the 1900s, I've always been so intrigued by the fashion of the 1940s, because the fashion industry completely changed during the 1940s and during World War II, and you see that change and that influence on fashion, and that continued to progress throughout the war. And then the 1950s, you also see a dramatic change in fashion because the war had ended, and that mindset of influencing people's lives impacted fashion because of the lifestyles that people were living. So Also the 1940s and 1950s, probably because there's just so much interesting like sociological and psychological stuff about fashion from those areas. Like, you can tell I love fashion history and I'm totally a geeky nerd about it. So someone asked a question. I'll probably like turn this into a video at some point down the road when I make more educational videos, and it was a subscriber on YouTube, and they said, I would love to see you talk about your experience in this sector. Is fashion designing so expensive? What should we do as a beginner, etc.? So I definitely, in the back of my mind and on my list of videos to make, I have all of these ideas for those of you who are new to sewing, new to fashion, are beginners. I'm definitely going to at some point make content on this channel for that as well. But my experience in this sector, I mean, there's a lot of aspects of the sector for me. Like, I'm in the sector of being a fashion design teacher. I'm in the sector of loving to be in trend and in fashion, but also loving to thrift and being like the thrifting sector. I'm also in the sector of like sewing my own clothes and the technical aspects of that. So I think a huge misconception, and I will probably talk about this in a video at some point, is this idea that if you want to sew your own clothes, it's so expensive and you should just buy it. And in this world of fast fashion, people are just like, oh, we can spend a couple of bucks and we can get something that looks trendy, and then we just, you know, get a new thing the next season when there's new trends that are out. Fashion designing does not have to be expensive for you. Like I said, I love to thrift. 99.9% of the things that I make are from sheets, curtains, and tablecloths that I have thrifted for like $5 to $10. The best way to source fabric, to get very unique fabrics, unique prints, and it's also created in a very conscientious and sustainable and ethical way. So fashion designing does not have to be expensive. The like overhead cost of getting your machines and tools maybe, but if you think about like cost per use, they totally pay for themselves in the long run. And if you can turn it into some kind of business and make money from it, it also pays off as well. So again, I'll probably talk about this in a video at some point, but fashion designing does not have to be expensive. And coming from the perspective of if you are a beginner learning how to sew, YouTube is like full of knowledge. I learned so much from YouTube. If you can kind of do some research and figure out the basics that you need to learn how to do, how to work a sewing machine, how to sew different stitches, how to install zippers, do buttons, hem, gather, all of those kinds of things, you can find videos for all different things about that. There are YouTube channels and YouTubers who focus specifically on teaching you step-by-step aspects of sewing, teaching beginners how to sew. So YouTube is your go-to if you are brand new to this. Start searching topics, start searching ideas, start searching projects, and learn from that. Don't be afraid to make mistakes along the way. It's totally fine. That's part of sewing. And then the other thing, we have so many great like virtual classes these days. So things like Skillshare and different databases like that have great knowledgeable people who are teaching classes. You can also research classes in your area as well if it's something that's not offered at your school, or maybe you're graduated or you're an adult. There are sewing classes that are offered either virtually or in person depending on where you live, but there's a lot you can just learn on your own. Alright, I think that is about it for all of the questions that I have been asked over the last couple of months. So I wanted to create a video and be able to answer and share all of those here. And like I said, if you still have additional questions or a question popped into your mind as you're watching this and you want to ask to see my answer on it or my opinion on it, definitely drop it in the comments below and I will come through and answer all of those questions or add it to videos in the future. And again, like every video, if you like what you saw here today, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you are not subscribed to my channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the new videos and projects that I'm going to be putting out for the summertime. And shameless plug, if you aren't following me on different social networking platforms like Instagram and TikTok, make sure you hit the subscribe and follow button on those platforms as well. All my accounts will be linked down below. On Instagram, I share a lot of daily aspects of my life, things that I don't share anything about here on YouTube or don't have the time for. I'm always sharing details about my outfits. That's the majority of what I post. I share behind the scenes projects. Sometimes I ask y'all, ask my followers on Instagram for advice on projects. So if you want to give input on that, definitely go follow me on Instagram. And then on TikTok, it's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, thrift flips, sewing details, and kind of extra bonus content outside of YouTube. So thank you all for tuning in to today's video. It has been just way too long of a time since I popped in and we chatted, and I'm just so grateful and thankful for all of you wonderful people who subscribe to my channel and take an interest in what I do and the things that I love. So thank you for watching today's video, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye.